And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Cruz Radio 102.8 live streaming broadcast sponsored by Design Creations and Candles, owned and operated by Pamela Price. Check out Design Creations and Candles on Facebook, Twitter, and IG for all of your home decor. Tonight, we are honored to have the City of Richmond's Commonwealth's Attorney, the Honorable Colette McEachin. She's like a co-host with me now and a regular guest. And also joining with us tonight, we have with the Richmond Police Department, Major Sybil El-Amin Jones. I got that right, didn't I?
Yes, sir.
And also Officer Farrhard El-Amin. First, I would like to thank the City of Richmond's interim Chief of Police, William Jody Blackwell, for allowing his department and his officers to participate in this special broadcast. And also like to thank Colette for coordinating this and getting all the troops together tonight. Certainly appreciate you all. And before we proceed, I'd like to you all to introduce yourselves to our audience and tell them a little bit about you. And I'd like to start with uh, Sybil, if you don't mind. I'll start with you.
Sure. My name is Sybil El-Amin Jones. I've been a police officer for 23 years with RPD. We're both, my brother and I were from Richmond, Virginia. We went to Henrico High School, although my brother is repping Marshall Walker. I was like, what? What'd you do? What'd you do? Our mom actually taught at Marshall Walker. So we both went to Henrico. We went to VCU. I went to the Army. He got a job. And I'm just happy to be here tonight to discuss this hot topic and give a little bit of a different perspective of what policing looks like nowadays in the city of Richmond. I think some people might have missed some of the great work that we've done with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, with our other community partners. So, whatever you'd like to ask, we're ready.
All right. And Colette? No, I'm sorry, Farhad.
Farrhard.
Farhad.
Yeah.
Yeah, the H is silent, but
H is silent. Okay. All right.
So I'm Farrhard. I actually live in the city right now. I lived in the county pretty much all my life. But city life is what I've come to love. I happen to work in the city too as a police officer. I love my job. Now here recently, um, the things that have been taking place are unprecedented, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I was struggling with it. Um, it's really hard because I know what the Richmond Police Department has been doing, not just in the last 12 years I've been here, but my sister's been here since '97. Um, Commonwealth Attorney McEachin, I've been able to see her in action, and I know what's been going on in the city. So for people to take out what has happened in other places on us, it's really been a struggle. But I say all that to say this: I want to keep forward. I want to keep doing the work that we're doing, and I look forward to trying. I just want to have a place to have that conversation so that people understand where our frustration is coming from, and I can understand where your frustration is coming from, and we can win ultimately together as a community.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Colette.
So I am Colette Wallace McEachin. I'm the Commonwealth's attorney for the city of Richmond. I have been with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office for over 20 years, and Sybil and I have known each other as we have both progressed through the ranks. I was elected Commonwealth Attorney in January, and so it's been a very different and hectic first 6 months between 20,000 armed men showing up at the Capitol in January to support gun rights, and then following that in March with COVID, and now following the tragic murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, and the way that that has affected the city of Richmond, which Farrhard mentioned. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm hoping people will listen with an open mind and understand that no group can be painted with a broad brush, that everybody is an individual, and that all police are not anything, all protesters are not anything, all Black people are not anything, all women are not anything, that you have to look at each individual action. Those people who misbehave or abuse their authority should be held accountable as individuals.
All right, thank you. What I'm going to do now, you guys are going to be a little patient with me. I'm, of course, because of COVID, I'm having to be the moderator and also the engineer. So just bear with me. We're going to go ahead and listen to an excerpt from the chief's presentation today.
Good afternoon. I've had the pleasure of working with the Richmond Police Department and serving this community for over 22 years. I am proud to work alongside the men and women of the Richmond Police Department, both sworn and civilian. I am committed to the members of the Richmond Police Department to remain who I am and to lead by example. In the city, we are faced with some trying times, including the civil unrest at a level that many of us have not seen before. This is coupled by COVID-19 as we continue to focus on the health and welfare of our safety and families and communities. As interim chief of police, I recognize the challenges that we as a community have to face. I use the word we because I know that success is not possible without working together and ensuring we maintain open and honest dialogue with respect. The strength of our city is truly being tested. We know as a society that we need to improve race relations, combat discrimination, and racism. As law enforcement professionals, it is our responsibility to ensure we treat all citizens fairly and equally in all of our dealings. I am committed to maintain our high levels of accountability, both within and outside of our department. We are committed and invested to this community. We want to partner with our community to continue to strengthen our relationships and continue to strengthen our city. And I look forward to serving each and every one of you.
That was from a press conference held earlier today, and the video was courtesy of NBC 12. As we venture into this conversation tonight, I want to say to our audience, please put your comments in the comment section. But first of all, be respectful. This is not a show or broadcast where we're here to demean anybody, tear anybody down, but we're here to deal with the facts. We're here to hear both sides of law enforcement, from the Commonwealth Attorney's Office and from those that protect and serve, and also from you as you ask your questions. So there again, I will ask for you to be highly respectful. We are here to be conduits of restoration and resolution with raw conversation. I think my guest, you all will be inclined to hopefully agree with our goal tonight. And we're going to be talking about restoring, rebuilding burned bridges and restoring faith in law enforcement. And as I set the premise here, in order to have a rebuilding and restoration, there has to be a real and candid conversation with the end game to be the resolution and not just additional rhetoric. People across America and around the world are crying for justice and reformation. And before there can be any of the aforementioned things, there can be no longer a glossing over or sugarcoating of the two illnesses that continue to cripple America, which is racism and police brutality. And I am just again thankful for you all to be here to have this open and candid conversation. Now, we're in the midst of escalating tensions between police officers and protesters in Richmond and across the country due to what many are calling excessive lethal force and lack of accountability and racial biases. And I want to go to Sybil and Farrhard and ask, as officers of color, how do you put what has happened and what is transpiring into perspective? And I'll start with you first, Sybil.
I'll start with, I don't think it should matter what color you are when you see that video where Mr. Floyd is being murdered for 8 minutes. I think anyone can see the brutality in that. The juxtaposition for us as law enforcement, and I think which sometimes goes unnoted, is that we are literally the children of revolution. We are literally the children from a civil rights movement. I was the first person in my family born with all of my rights. And so my parents set in us to both be servants to our community. So when, I look at what happened in Minneapolis, I know that's not what happened in Richmond. And I know that because the leaders that you see in Richmond, the command staff that you see in Richmond, the Commonwealth attorney you see in Richmond, the interim police chief you see in Richmond. We are the benefactors of justice slowly, but justice nonetheless. So I have a hard time when any profession is sort of painted by the actions of one person. So specifically, I don't want to be defined by being a police officer, just like I don't want to be defined by being a Black woman. It's my occupation. It's what I do because I understand what is important in society. And so when I hear, the rhetoric, I'll tell you in a minute. I show up every day. My brothers, we show up every day. Colette shows up every day. And we've done that for several years, decades. So for that to be taken away because of the actions of someone that I don't know, I didn't train, I wasn't there, to me, it's just stunning, especially when you actually look at the city of Richmond's programs, when you do a side-by-side comparison of our policies and our procedures and the methods that we use to build and partner with communities. It's not just being ignored. It's almost like you're drowning out the truth. If you want to have a hard conversation and some hard truth telling, I'm here. I'm here for it. But if you want to make accusations based on the behavior of some psychopath, I'm not, and it's a hard talk to have, because no matter what color uniform I wear, I know you can see. I know you can see. I know you should be able to see. My uniform doesn't detract from my history my lineage, my ethnicity, my race. It does not. I
Farrhad?
hope I answered that. I'm sorry, I might have gone too.
No, no, no. Look, we have plenty of time. I don't have to worry about anybody pulling the plug tonight. Farhad?
Um,
Farhad.
so obviously, I piggyback on everything Sybil said, but I'm gonna be a bit cynical, only because that's how I feel. I don't know how everybody is outraged now. This has been happening actually for over 100 years, where black people have been. Yeah, but I'm just saying specific about the police. We have video now, right? And we have plenty of videos where this has happened. So I don't understand why is everybody protesting now? So my protest came when I became a police officer. And it's going to sound cliche, but I wanted to be the change that I wanted to see in the world. So instead of me just being behind my keyboard and complaining about things, I said, well, what if I become a police officer and my sister said, hey, you should be a police? I said, no, I don't want to be a police. I don't like the police. That's legitimately what my initial attitude was. But then when I got into it and I saw that I was helping people every day, no matter what the circumstance was, and you don't have a timeout, it's so fulfilling when you give it your all. And then you look back, it's been over 11 years, I'm going on 12 years now. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm proud, but it's not because Farrhard is so great. It's they've allowed me to do my work. The work that I was meant to do. And I've been raging against racism and police brutality in uniform by going call to call. And if I saw anything out of line, I addressed it. Like literally addressed it. But let me say this, because I'm no saint. Officers had to address me when I became too aggressive. Now, obviously, it didn't go to what happened to Minnesota. But like I said, what took so long for everybody to see it? All right, so now juxtapose that with I still got to come to work. And I've got people 17, 18 years old of all races calling me a pig and a murderer. No. My spirit says, no, you won't talk to me that way. Just like if somebody were to call me the N-word, I'd be like, no, you're not going to talk to me that way. But now I'm in a position where I can't react and respond the way I would ordinarily respond. So I am really mixed up right now. And it's not just for me, because I don't want to make it about me. What my coworkers are going through, what my friends are going through with almost no defenders, no one defending us. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some folks, but we don't control the media, we don't control the microphone. And because we're the police, who has historically been the villain in America, nobody wants to hear from us. But at the end of the day, and I told you guys earlier, some kids I work with in Bon Air Correctional Facility called to check on me today to see if I was okay. And I told them I wouldn't name their names, but it blessed my spirit to say, the fact that you even called to check on me, and you know I'm Popo, I'm 5'0", I'm 12, blesses my heart. They said, no, I want to do more. I'm like, you don't have to do anything else. I've got to weather this storm. Nothing happens by mistake. So I'm saying a lot to say, what happened in Minnesota, in Louisiana, in South Carolina, in Atlanta, disgusting. And nobody hates a bad cop more than cops. But nobody wants to hear that, so I got to take a back seat and just shut up. So let me say this to you, because I haven't said this. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. Because I've been sitting, waiting. Anyway, I could go on. But Mrs. McEachin, She was there with me at Bon Air. I said, Commonwealth attorney, could you come help me? I got some kids. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to get their time reduced because these are good kids and I want them to be returning citizens that are going to contribute to society. She said, yeah, tell me when. And I got the pictures to prove it, but I can't show them because you can't show certain pictures of juveniles in detention centers. Those are just the rules. But I was there. It happened. Those young men are calling to ask Officer El-Amin about me and my sister and the Commonwealth attorney. That is not going to make the news. And I'm not saying it should be the headline. I'm saying it's absolutely happening, but I don't know if it's happening anywhere else. It's happening in Richmond, Virginia, in Hillside, in Mosby, Wickham, Creighton, Riverside, everywhere. But nobody knows that story. They see my uniform and they go on me. When I say go on me, they call me names that I'm not accustomed to and that I'm not. Murderer and pig, it doesn't sit well with me. And I'm not the political one. And I'm doing my best to be political right now, although it may come off as aggressive. And I apologize. Anyway.
Well, first of all, let me say that you don't have to apologize because before we can have healing on both sides, and I mean both sides, we have to deal with the raw issues. So, my brother, do not apologize for your passion and for how this is affecting you, because I honestly believe that people need to see, and that's why it was important to me to have this tonight, this discussion, because there are people on all sides of this cancer that are hurting. And so I'm not going to get on the soapbox because they're not here to see me. Colette, I'd like to get your perspective, and then I have a question that just came in for our officers.
Okay. So my perspective as Commonwealth's attorney is that the citizens of Richmond elected me to do justice equally to everyone, for everyone, considering everyone. And that is my mandate. I believe there's a Southern expression that says, I don't have a dog in this fight. That's not quite true, because before I was Commonwealth attorney, I was a Black woman. And so that is always with me. But I also know how important the law is in validating and supporting the rights of African Americans. And has the law gotten it wrong sometimes? Yes. Was Plessy versus Ferguson a horrible decision? Yes. Did Brown versus Board of Education change everything in a minute? No. But the only way things change permanently, policy-wise, is through legislation and communication. And so that is the mandate that I think the citizens of Richmond have told me they want, and that's what I'm going to do. So I have received literally hundreds of phone calls and emails from citizens throughout the city asking on one side for everybody to be prosecuted to the fullest extent, and on the other side for everybody to have everything dismissed. And I can't go to either side automatically or based on my personal feelings or what the latest Twitter feed says. I don't buy into that. What I buy into, what I believe, what my ethical duties are to look at the law and the facts for each individual incident and make a judgment based on the law and the facts. And that's what I do.
I certainly appreciate that. And we're going to go to the question now, and I'm going to put it up on the screen, and I'm going to go back to to Sybil here. Sybil, can you see the question that's up there? How do you support police as well as support the change? I have a police friend, and I feel that she may feel some sort of way towards me now because I am for the change and Black Lives Matter and to stop police brutality, but I also support and love uh, police officers. And it sounds like this is somebody that's also very passionate and is in a dilemma, pretty much like Farrhad there. There's a dilemma going on, a real dilemma. So I'll start with you and I'll let you address her question. And Farrhad, I'll come back to you as well.
Um, well, first, I think you have to look at it as we're not on different sides. Um, Police support change. Um, Police agencies, and I'm not saying every agency is perfect, okay? I'm saying that police agencies are moving towards change and recognizing that. So there are a lot of things that agencies have done, and I'll give you an example with our agency. We wear body worn camera. That's a change that you see. Community policing is a style of policing that's changed in the past 25 years. So we're not on opposing sides. Police officers support change. Richmond police officers would have protested against police brutality had we not been drawn into a riot where now we have to protect the city, we have to protect property, we have to protect other peaceful protesters. So we're not in opposition. When you say Black Lives Matter, police officers are not saying that Black lives don't matter. Black lives have always mattered. The way I think law enforcement sees it is that we don't get the luxury of saying what life matters and what life doesn't. We are on the front line. And what we see is the people that are saying that Black Lives Matter are not on the front line. We are in those neighborhoods every day. I have seen hundreds of murders. And the same people that are wearing the t-shirt are not in those communities demonstrating, having a vigil, protesting, or anything like that when we are watching Black lives disappear. So if there's any rigidity or if there's a problem between you and your friend, understand that you probably both feel the exact same way about life, just life in general. Not saying that that anyone should say that racism doesn't exist, sexism doesn't exist, but you can't jump into the race fight because you saw something on Twitter or you saw something on TV and now you want it to automatically change. If you want change, just like the Commonwealth attorney said, it starts with you, and it's not something you're going to see automatically, especially when you don't put in the work to get it done rather than just wear a slogan. The slogan should be, we need to do better. And that means everybody. Everybody needs to do better. Criminal justice reform is the caboose of the train. I think some people miss that. If your child comes into the criminal justice system, specifically in Virginia, you're about 13, 14 years old. There's so many other issues and problems that have been ignored or missteps that have been taken for that to happen. So what about the family? What about the institution of the family? What about education? What about medical systems? What about public health? What about mental health? You have to step in. Then when your son or nephew or whomever or whoever it is no longer in the picture, then the village should assist in raising that child. And what we typically see is a hands-off approach. That's not my child. I'm not concerned with that. That's somebody else's business. No, actually, it's your business too. So again, you have to be involved on the front end. If you expect to see changes on the back end, law enforcement has never been about social reform. I think people miss that in history. Law enforcement is there for social order. Communities are there for social reform. Families are there for social reform. You are there for social reform. If you want reform, register and vote. People don't get into places accidentally. We vote. People voted for presidents. People vote for governors. People voted for Colette. That is why she is there, because the people have spoken. They have given their opinion. They trust her. She has an excellent track record. She does what needs to be done. If you want to be heard, start with the child you have at home.
All right.
I might have gone.
No, y'all couldn't worry about the time here. I got the clock tonight.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Sybil pretty much said anything that I would say, but I'm gonna be a little more specific. But your friend, listen to your friend, right? And then when you get the opportunity to speak, be honest, even if you don't think that that's what they want to hear. Like, your perspective may not be the same. I have police friends and I have, civilian friends. But the thing is, I don't hang out with police officers most of the time. I'm 45 years old, so I already got my circle, and a few people have come along for the ride that I work with. But I tend to listen to the folks who are honest with me, even when I don't want to hear honesty. So be honest with your friend, but also listen to your police friend. Also, and this is the biggest thing, this is a marathon and not a sprint. So after you're done marching and this blows over and there is some type of reform, don't stop. My sister just hit it on the head, the family. So when I first became a police officer, the thing that I really wanted to address was the family unit. I think that's broken. And I may be just stating the obvious, but I'm telling you, when we get families to take care, at least take care of your children and make sure that they are doing the right thing the best they can. Like, you get on them about that. Not so much about what shoes they're wearing and how popular they are. Are you doing the right thing when nobody's looking? I watched Do the Right Thing 2 nights ago. And it's so eerie that was in the early 90s. For that to be having Radio Raheem is George Floyd. And it brought tears. I'm a big baby. But what I'm saying is, if everybody watched Do the Right Thing, they might not be surprised, But to get to your question specifically, listen first. Be honest about how you feel. Don't sugarcoat how you feel about it, because that's what we learn. Don't just hang with people just agree with you all the time. My sister and I actually rarely agree. We're going to try not to do that tonight. But I respect her because she stays with what she believes. But I do the same thing. And then when this is done and the graffiti is gone and the monuments are gone and everybody's like, remember what happened in 2020 and the COVID?
You still have to.
What are you doing to move forward? And listen, and this is what I love about the Richmond Police Department. Be proactive. Part of the reason I love being a community officer is I understood you can't arrest the problem away. We got to get out there. And I know this has nothing to do with what she asked, but I get to DJ in uniform. I get to play ball at the community center as well as a detention center with the community and be myself. And then I put my uniform on, they're like, oh, I didn't know you were a cop. You don't act like a cop. That's the biggest compliment that she and I get. But
what does
that mean? Anyway, but I'm a citizen and I'm a police officer. This just happens to be my occupation. But the thing is, I honestly believe, and maybe I'm biased, we get it right in so many different ways. I want people to hear us out. Keep giving me your energy and your passion and what you believe should change. Stay with that. But then when we turn the page, because there's another crisis, don't forget, we need police reform. Don't forget that. Don't forget that we need, listen, whoever wrote that Facebook DM, maybe you need to be a police officer.
That's what's happening. And we are hiring.
Because we love concerned people. That's right. Really, those are the best officers. Yes. Not the strongest ones, not the tallest ones, the ones talking. The greatest calls I've been on, I talked to a guy about his divorce. I talked to a young girl who was who left her mom. And what is that, emancipation? Where kids leave their parents because the situation is so bad, which I never even knew about. But I got to learn because I went on that call and I saw them as an individual and I looked at it as an opportunity to learn. So now you're getting an opportunity to learn from your police officer friend, but they're getting an opportunity to learn from you. So that's what I got for that question.
All right, this is going to go a little into some mechanics here, some techniques, and it's going to draw in you guys into the conversation, Sybil and Farrhard, and also Colette. So I'll let you know, fasten your seatbelts. And I want to say this is a little bit difficult for me as well because Sybil and Colette know both my background, that I have family that are heavily involved in law enforcement. So the conversations that we're having, they're real. We're passionate about it. And I want to say this as I preface this. I have a deep appreciation for those that put on that uniform day in and day out and risk their lives day in and day out. A deep appreciation. And so I grapple with how I wanted to bring this show. I wanted to be where at the end of the day, our audience leaves here with an understanding of officers, the day-to-day things they go to. And I'm leading in with this. Every time there is an issue, everybody screams training. And so what I'm about to preface here is when it comes to, and you guys probably have heard this, what is called paranoid training and self-preservation. When it comes to Rayshard Brooks, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, these are just three of many police encounters that, for whatever reason, went horribly wrong. And here's my question to my panel and guests. Is it a fair assessment, even with the most experienced and seasoned officers, that those two elements, talking about paranoid training and self-preservation, can lead to overreactions, resulting in excessive use of lethal force and brutality? And I want to start with the officers first. First of all, have you all even encountered the terminology paranoid training?
No, I haven't heard of paranoid. If you give me a description, we might.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. You're talking about, well, I think what you're saying is everybody has a gun. Everybody's out to try to kill you. So you need to do what you need to do to go home safely. I think that's what he's talking about.
That's exactly because I've talked to other officers and I've counseled with other officers as being a chaplain with the a police department at one time, and that's exactly is that through 20, I think it's 22 weeks of training. Most times, what you hear throughout that training is that you have to have somebody watch your six. You got to always be on guard. You have to be alert. You have to be ready to take action. You want to go home at the end of the day to your family. So when it comes to with that type of bombardment and training, not every department, not every officer, and then the fact that self-preservation is something that we all have and that will kick in when we're in a dangerous situation. Again, my question is, do you think as officers that many times that adrenaline, that training, and that self-preservation overwhelms the professional training that often should come into play?
All right, so let me say this. I can certainly see why somebody would say that. There is a part of training where self-preservation is emphasized. Okay, here's where I think your human side has to overtake whatever you've been trained. Even if if somebody were to tell me everybody's trying to kill you, I have to see for myself. What I think is going on is some of the people who are police officers are actually afraid of people, and or they look at some folks as less than. Now you can call that racist, you can call it whatever. It's a fear factor to me. Now I'm gonna say this, and I'm not saying this is what they teach, but this is what I believe. I would rather die than kill an innocent man. That's what Farrhard believes. But that gets back to family. So every single call I go to, and don't get me wrong, you have the optics, right, and the perception. I'm 5'2", 170 pounds, which, I could do better, right? Not as far as how tall I am, but how heavy I am. But the average human being is what? I think like 5'7", 6 feet, way bigger than me, than us. But I've always been small. But here's where my faith comes in and my teaching from my family comes in. I'm going to see what this 6'5", 300-pound man is talking about, right? And I've had plenty of those calls. I can tell by his spirit and his energy, you want some help, or you want to run from me, or whatever. You got a warrant. I figure it out right in the spot. But then there are times where I think he wants to hurt me, and I have to figure it out on the spot. I don't know how you train that. I think, my sister's going to take care of that in a minute. I don't know how you train that. I think you can recruit mature people who see the best in everybody. And I know people are like, that's pie in the sky. And nope, I believe it. I believe I'm going to win every time I go to a call. I just do. Now, I'm not saying winning is I'm going to be on top of somebody. Winning is I'm going to do my best. I'm going to show them who I am. I'm going to see who they are. And I'm going to leave here safely. And they're going to leave here safely, even if I don't. That's really what I believe. Now, I will say this. There have been times where I'm like, oh, my goodness. This person doesn't care about my life at all. And I use my 2 little feet and I create distance. And I get on my radio. But I'm going to be honest with you. There's only been maybe twice in 12 years that I really felt like somebody wanted to kill me. Now, again, I don't really believe police training tells me that. I believe my life experience has told me that. I had a job, I got fired. I've been through a divorce. My mom died. My daughter's been in an accident. I've had life experience to say, dude, don't panic. In a lot of these videos, I see guys panicking. And I can call it fear because I'm just guessing. I can say, well, they don't think about this human like they think about themselves or their brother or their sister. That's just my guess. But to answer your question, I don't think training solves everything. I personally don't believe that. I believe you have to be in it. You have to talk to people, want to talk to people, want to help, and have the confidence and faith that this is going to turn out all right. And if it doesn't, then we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Appreciate that candor and that openness and transparency.
So the only thing that I will add to that is first, we have to really consider that police officers are taught to fight their fear instincts, okay? Because you mentioned fight or flight, right? So when there's a burning building, when you hear shots being fired, if I were to hear shots being fired right this minute, okay, some people would find a safe place and bunker down and shelter, right? Well, police officers are taught to run towards where the shots are being fired, okay, despite the idea that you could be injured, you could be hurt, and you could be shot. So the idea of paranoia certainly could exist. And we certainly do teach officers how to navigate that feeling. But I think there are other things that need to be mentioned that we also train police officers to do. We train you to drive a car under stressful conditions. We train you how to communicate and de-escalate situations in stressful situations. I have talked a person that had a gun to their head, okay, out of harming themselves. My brother has done the same thing. So 9 times out of 10, the incidents that are never mentioned in the news, the incidents that are never considered, that is due to the other training we receive. They don't just teach you how to shoot a gun and send you out into the world and say protect. No, there's a reason why our police academy is 6 months long. There's a reason why there's a requirement that you have an ethical high standard. There's a reason why you have to pass a psychological exam. There's a reason why you have to pass a PT test or physical examination. There are other things that we expect you to bring to the table before we say you can be a police officer. And I can tell you right now, everybody that signs up to be a police officer does not become a police officer. Everybody talks about, heaven ain't going. It really is that simple. People wash out. We do identify people that have issues, but in any occupation, you're going to find people that should not have been there in the first place. And I mean, we could talk about any occupation, but the idea that there is a paranoia, well, I am wearing a bulletproof vest. I mean, and I'm not wearing a bulletproof vest because I'm paranoid. I'm wearing a bulletproof vest because we are going into some of the most dangerous situations, domestic situations. We are talking to people on their worst day, okay? And when you are on your worst day, you have dialed 911. That means that there's no one else for you to call to remedy the situation other than the 2 cops that are 5 feet and 5'2" to somehow calm down the situation. Okay, I'm not going to be able to calm down the situation with my vest. I'm not going to be able to calm down the situation. I'm able to calm down the situation because, like my brother said, I have the ability to communicate with people, as most officers do. You don't go on a call and immediately pull out your gun. That is not the way things work. When you are able to break it down and look at all the things, well, why did the officer pull their gun out? Typically, there's a threat. Now, a threat to someone who is 6'6", built like a linebacker, does not look like the same sort of threat to someone who is 5 feet tall and weighs less than 200 pounds. And I also could be better off weight, I'm just saying. But I'm not there to try to, and he's saying winning, but I'm not there to de-escalate the situation with my brawn. Okay? That is, we always, our entire family's small. We're not the ones that's going to start the fight. Okay? The idea is, and I have said this to people on several calls, baby, look at me. I know you're mad and you're upset, but you have got to calm down. You call me, okay? I didn't just end up on your door by happenstance, okay? I was called. You have to calm down. And what law enforcement is there to do is contain it and control it and make it safe. And when it's not safe, when officers don't feel safe, that's when you see the escalation. Now, I also have to say this as well. Not every law enforcement agency receives the same training. Okay? We are different in the training that we receive. But if you were to go 2 counties over, 5 counties over, their training may look completely different. Their demographics might look completely different. The demographics on their police department versus their community and vice versa. So every police department has its own sort of DNA, okay? What we should try to establish is best practices. What works best in these types of situations? And in these types of situations, when you're saying that, there's a paranoia there, well, it's not just paranoia. There's actual danger. There's situations where officers have been ambushed. There are situations where officers just show up and they're shot in the head. We consistently receive threats, and specifically due to this incident that happened in Minneapolis. Why are people calling to threaten and tell me they want to kill me? I didn't do it. So when you are looking at real threats in real time, the landscape is a little bit different. And anyone that's interested in what we do, and I think is an amazing tool, is one, the ride along, where if you're over 18, you can ride along with your local police department. Second, it's Milo. And Milo is, and I'll let you discuss it because you teach that class, but I'll let you talk about Milo.
Yeah, so Milo, it's basically, it's a simulation where you get to become a police officer. So if you can imagine a movie screen, an electronic gun, taser, and pepper spray. Well, no, we don't have that one. We don't have that type of money. But it's kind of virtual reality type deal. But the screen responds to what you do, and it's awesome. And I'll tell you this, when we do our evaluations, 99% change their mind about the police. Because I have to take the gun away from people after they do the scenario, and the gun is moist and wet because of the sweat. And people tell me, well, they freeze, right? Well, I couldn't do anything. I didn't know what to do.
So what you see on the screen is a person, is what we actually see. So you see an individual getting ready to throw something at you, right? And you have a weapon in your hand. So this is just your average citizen coming in to take this class and doing the simulation. So you have to decide in a split second, is that a cell phone? Is that a rock? Is that a knife? Is that a gun in that person's hand? So when you go through that simulation, when you actually feel, your heart racing and you can't tell what just happened, again, we put you in that experience so you see that you only have a split second to decide whether or not you're going to get shot or hit with a rock. You don't know.
Here's a comment that came in. It says training isn't the issue. All officers are trained, and I believe that it is the innate tendency of individual officers that determine the outcome of calls and situations.
I'm with Colette.
Coco,
Hey,
thank
Coco.
you.
Yeah,
You're
she used
right.
to work here. She was in computer services.
Yeah.
Great person.
Great.
All right, Colette, are you ready now?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm sorry.
No. This is seriously. These are the things that I believe citizens need to know. And Milo, I would say that any cynical person that has an issue with police department, that should be part of Colette, that you make them go through when they got to do something stupid with the police. That is part of their behavior modification, is to take that course and understand all the complexities that's going on here. So, which is the segue into my next question. And I think Sybil, you touched on this, and Farrhard, you did also, regarding the appropriate legal force and lethal force. Rather, in many cases, it can be subjective. It varies from department to department, from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, from officer to officer, and even when it comes to our Department of Justice. And I will read this, and Colette, I want you to chime in on this. And this comes from again, the Department of Justice, the justice.gov, and the criminal section. And this is from an article that was posted February 2019. It says, physical assault. The reasonableness of a particular use of force must be judged from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene rather than the 2020 vision hindsight. And this comes from Graham versus Carter, 490 U.S. 380 slash 96 97 1989. So here's the lead in. Is it safe to say in most cases that the decision of lethal force is up to the discretion of the officer on the scene? And if so, how do departments determine what is reasonableness of an officer in regards to misconduct, negligence, or intentional harm? That's a mouthful. Sybil, I want you to chime in, and then Colette, I want you to chime in because I have a follow-up question for you. How is that determined what is appropriate lethal force?
I would pass this question to Colette because she prosecutes that, and she could probably give a better response.
So that is not a simple question, and that is why cases that involve an officer using deadly force are very complex and very nuanced. In Virginia, the standard for using a deadly weapon, which can be a gun or anything that can cause serious bodily injury, is the circumstances of the case. And so taking the Rashad Brooks case that happened at the Wendy's in Atlanta, for instance, one of the questions that will have to be decided is a taser a deadly weapon? A taser is essentially a weapon that can electrocute you. Would you consider that? Is that considered by the Georgia legislature or by the Georgia case law, the judges, that that's a deadly weapon? If it's not a deadly weapon, but it's clearly dangerous, is that enough for an officer to return fire with a deadly weapon? What are the circumstances? How many people are around? How many officers are around? Is it night or day? Was there a struggle beforehand? Was the person shot in the back or the front or the side? All of those facts go into the decision about whether or not to charge an individual, and then beyond charging the individual, whether or not you're going to be able to convince a jury of 12 people beyond a reasonable doubt that that officer used deadly force in an inappropriate manner.
You actually answered the next 5 questions that I had for you. you took that David and Goliath, that one stone, and you knocked those out the park. And I want to get down to, because I don't want to, again, you all have families and lives and things like that. And this is an important conversation, and there's so much to try to get into one broadcast. But I want to get down to asking one more question to you, Colette. And again, I'm playing. I got my tie on today because I'm being the defense attorney. All right, my client, who is John Q. Citizen, has, of course, felt that his use of deadly lethal force was based on intimate danger. And we always use that word intimate, about to happen, about to occur. So he is, again, not a trained professional officer, but he is also expected to use what is called reasonable ability. Is there a different set of laws or circumstances that separate the reasonability of a professional police officer and the reasonability of John Q. Citizen?
So I think what you're saying, if I'm understanding your hypothetical there, is that John Q. Citizen is saying, I use deadly force because I felt that I was in imminent danger of serious bodily harm or death. And so that, therefore, is a self-defense argument, that either my shooting was excusable homicide or it was justifiable homicide. And a police officer using that defense is essentially saying the same thing. But I think societally, both the good and bad of being a police officer is that you are held to a higher standard. You just are. You have the benefit of a badge, and you have the benefit of legally being able to have a gun and to use it and to use your hands in a way that if a citizen laid hands on another citizen would be the basis of an assault charge. But society is investing in police officers, is trusting in police officers, is designating police officers as a special entity. And you are allowed to put hands on someone. You are allowed to arrest someone. You are allowed to tase someone in the appropriate circumstance. So on one hand, there is that supposed benefit. On the other hand, when you violate that trust, then society is going to come down on you harder than it might John Q. Citizen, because we have invested in you. We are holding you responsible. We are giving you special powers, and you have now violated our trust, and you have abused those powers.
See, that's why you're the Commonwealth attorney. All right, I have two. I'm gonna fast forward here. I have 2 more questions. that came in, and I think these are crucial questions here. Sybil, I want to ask you first about defunding police department and how that would impact a police department, and then Farrhad, I'm going to ask you about community policing. So, Sybil, how does defunding? Because we're seeing this now more and more, and people I don't think really understand the impact of that statement. Can you give us an insight?
Sure. So generally, when people start to talk about defunding police departments, they mean that they're going to take money away from the law enforcement agencies and put them into different programs that the law enforcement may take part in. So instead of allowing a police department to have, let's say, like a PAL division, Police Athletic League division, or community youth and intervention services where my brother works, what you're saying is that you're going to divert funds where officers will use that money or those grant or that grant and put it elsewhere into education, perhaps. So I'll give you an example. School resource officers, and this has come up recently. Police officers are in the schools in the city of Richmond. There's also Richmond security guards in schools. So what some may say is that we don't want the Richmond Police Department to be in schools. We're going to take that money and we're going to hire our own set of officers or security to handle those measures. Okay, so that would be an example of removing money from a law enforcement department and then placing it somewhere else into like RPS schools. The issue that we find, especially for Richmond police, is that we use, and I said this earlier, we use a style of policing called community policing. And community policing means that we are trying to be in every facet of the community and not in an aggressive or hostile sort of way. If you look at our school resource officers, our school resource officers are in the schools to bridge gaps, to build relationships, to talk to these kids in school, which is a safe setting, rather than it always being when we respond on a call. So they're in the school, yes, to assist with the help security, assist with fights and things of that nature, and to maintain order. But there's also a community policing bridge that can be left out when we take those programs away. So if you were to say that you were going to defund the police, you were saying that the program that my brother does, which is the LIFE program, and he talked about it a little bit earlier, and I'll let him finish it. But that program is a measure of restorative justice, where you go back out into the community. You are making relationships with juveniles that have committed crimes, and you're saying that, look, when I see you again, when you are done with your sentence or whatever this is, I want to see you in a different relationship. I want you to know who I am. When you feel like you're going to get in trouble, when you feel like someone is trying to hurt you, or you're out on the block and the first thing you might want to do is reach for a gun or try to fight, the idea is to say, hey, you can call me. It's not snitching, it's not anything like that. It's a better decision-making process so that you are kept safe and you don't become a recidivist. So we won't have to see you again in this sort of setting. And that particular program is grant funded and also funded by the Richmond Police Department. We have community outreach personnel. So when you start to dilute the system, you have to understand that if you're asking police to go backwards, and that's almost what it sounds like, to just a law enforcement sort of position. All you want is law and order from the police. I think that we're taking steps backwards. Even if you were to say, well, you have a mental party issue, and the person really needs a social worker. So, I'll give you an example of that. So I think about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a social worker went out to check on an individual who they felt they were going to have to take back in custody because they weren't taking their medication, they weren't responding the way that they should have. So the social worker goes out to visit the person, and the person basically walks out of the house and won't respond. In those types of situations, social workers are able to get what's called a green warrant. Okay, and that means that the police can take custody of that individual and then escort them to a mental health facility. So in this particular situation where the social worker cannot control her client, you call law enforcement. Okay, and so the social worker is not expected to cuff him or place him in any sort of custody, physically restrain him. At some point, you have to call law enforcement. And in this incident, when the officer showed up, that person shot the police officer. So again, we're not wearing vests because they're cute. I mean, we're wearing them in order to protect ourselves. But in many situations, even when you say, well, a police officer shouldn't have to respond to this, or a police officer shouldn't have to respond to that, we provide security for just about every other agency. So if there's a fire in someone's house, okay, and with rioting, there's fire with riots, we escort firemen into the area so they can safely do their job. We escort ambulances into areas so they can do their jobs. So even when you talk about taking these pieces out that you don't want us there at all, someone just might have to dial 911. And what you are going to want is someone who is appropriately trained, someone who believes in community policing, someone who is not just there to get the facts and send someone to jail and arrest their way out of the problem, like my brother mentioned. You are going to want I'm trying to think of the word that you used, not body. I mean, a person that understands that can wear several different hats. Is what I'm trying to say.
But you want a bottom line person who this is the problem, and this is going to go away when this person leaves. Right. And that's the thing I think people don't understand. We have to respond to every single 911 call.
Cat in a tree.
A cat in a tree. I've had calls, my daughter is talking back to me.
My son won't go to school. You can call a social worker, but the social worker...
We have to come, but here's the thing, on the other side of that, it may not be my daughter's talking back to me. It could be my husband is beating me or my wife is about to kill me. And I don't get to go and say, well, wait, all right, hang on, time out. Let's call this other. We have to figure it out right then and there. And what goes unreported, I think, or reported not enough, is the times that it works out. I'll just do one story. Had a guy stabbed his girlfriend in the neck down on Afton in Southside. I was a supervisor for the night because we had riots because VCU had gone to the Final Four. So the street was, we had very few officers, and I had to talk the guy out of ordering himself up in the house, and they called SWAT team. His girlfriend, who was in the hospital with a hole in her neck, gave me his number. You know what made him open the door? I asked him what high school he went to. He said he went to JHW. And I said, my mom taught at Marshall Walker, which has nothing to do with it. And I have the shirt on today to prove it, right? And I said, what is going to get you to come outside? I said, because if SWAT comes, and this is how I put it, literally, they're going to mess up your apartment. He said, can you get me a Newport cigarette? And we're standing around. I said, my man, I got you. And we were by an apartment complex, and I went and got him a cigarette. He came out the house. This went on for 45 minutes, me going back and forth. And the news was there, right? When he came out and nobody shot him and you didn't shoot us, they left.
Wow.
Yeah, it broke my heart. Now listen, because I have friends in the media, so I'm not bashing the media. But the friends that I talk to say, Farrhard, that doesn't sell and it doesn't get them ratings. But what I think it does is it hurts society, because if you only feed officers shooting people and babies dying and things like that, everybody's afraid and the world is coming to an end. So then when you see a police officer who just killed somebody in Minnesota, when you see me, you're like, F12, pig, get out of my face. I'm not going to cooperate because all you're going to do is shoot me. So Sybil answered the defunding part. Absolutely.
Tell them about what you do.
Okay, so what I do is so awesome. I've been telling all my friends to sign up for the police department because my job is so great. I told you before we got on the call, before COVID-19, on Mondays I go and teach law, and the Commonwealth attorney has accompanied me, and we talk to these kids about making good decisions. If you participate and don't just tell me F12 and don't come out of your cell, then you get to play basketball, and I might bring you a pizza or something on Thursday, and we play basketball. Now, what I'm really just trying to do is learn about you as a person. You're going to learn about me, and what happens is maybe you won't like me, but you'll understand me better. And maybe I won't like you because you like the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Hey, watch it. Easy about that. Tread lightly.
But here's the thing. So imagine this. Dallas Cowboy fans and Steelers fans, police officers, and people who hate the police are playing basketball and sharing a slice of pizza for years, right? So when they get out, one of my proudest moments, me and my man Rel and Toon went to the state fair out in Doswell. And it's funny, one of my kids is named Doswell too. We rode the Ferris wheel and some roller coasters, and they had never been to the fair before. But now, see, so they're happy, but I'm happy that they even want to be seen with me. Now, I'm not in uniform, but I'm thinking okay, this is going to change their life, right? And then, you know what? And it might not, but that's my optimistic belief. And what I'm telling you is, I don't want you to think that, oh, for us, so special. No, I'm telling you the people I work with here, and I don't know everybody, okay? Just like you don't know everybody you went to high school with. There are over 700 people here. I know the people I work with and ran calls with. I'm saying I'm trying to change lives, and they're changing my life, and I'm telling the story whenever I get the chance. And if they shut down my department, right, because we're defunding the police, y'all just patrol.
And that's 50 officers you're going to lose what?
And we just go back to patrol, and now I'm just running calls. And what running calls is, ma'am, I want to help you. I know you got a black eye. I arrested this guy. Or, sir, I know you got a stab wound to your back. I'm going to take you to the hospital, but I got to go to the next call. I can't spend that time with you that I want. With these special programs, I am using my own money and RPD's money, let me say that, to spend time with these young men and women to say, hey, I care, I love you, because you're a human being, real talk. And I know you don't like me, but we'll see after we spend this time together. And if you don't mess with me after that, all right, word, that's cool.
It's fair.
And that's fair, but if you only know a police officer because they arrested you, why would you like the police? Why? But if they playing basketball with you, DJing for you, playing the old school, Frankie Beverly, Stevie Wonder, and take you to the fair to get elephant ears and funnel cakes,
or speaking to you,
or
when it's
speaking
not
to
in
you,
an aggressive manner, just walking through the neighborhood.
Hey, how's your mama doing? One of my kids, oh my goodness, one of my kids, mom just passed. And I couldn't get there because I was teaching the class. I wanted to go to the funeral and because of the virus. But look, cards from my sister. I'm going. Nobody knows about that. And again, I'm only saying what I experienced. This is happening all the time throughout the department,
Yes.
right?
We're not the only
And to
one.
get back to the beginning of this call, what makes me mad when somebody calls me a pig and a murderer, when you 17 and you don't know nothing about the struggle. And guess what? I don't know if y'all can see, I'm black. Surprise.
I'm not
Surprise,
sure.
I'm black. I don't wear a uniform all the time, so I've gone through it.
That's why we're here to change it.
That's why one of the reasons I became a police officer, so I could say, hey, y'all not gonna do it like this. Here's how you do it. I'm an FTO, field training officer, meaning I get to put police officers in my car to train them how to do it, right? And they said in my department, hey, Farrhard, yeah, do it. Yeah, we like the way you do it. I would not be on this call right now if they didn't like the way I'm doing it. Really, because they'd be held liable if I were to say something crazy. And you know what? Hopefully I'll see the tape, because maybe I did say something crazy tonight. But my whole point is, this is what I've experienced in 12 years. And we all know in 12 years, you're going to find something out about people you spend time with. And it only has been getting better. This last experience has been a character builder, if I'm going to put it lightly. I'm spiritual. And I got to tell you, it doesn't look like this. Like, I'm encouraged. Like I said, thank you so much for inviting us on. I so much appreciate Carol Adams, please don't get me started. She is doing the same. So anyway, I say all that to say this: defund the police means something different to me when I know what our department has been doing with the funds that we get. And that's just since I've been here, but they were doing it before I got here. You know, beautiful, wonderful things. But everybody doesn't get to see it. It doesn't make the news for whatever reason. And then again, this is huge. The Commonwealth attorney comes with police officer Farrhard El-Amin to speak to the kids to help them do better in life.
And shout out to Judge Taylor.
Judge Taylor, retired judge, to say, hey, let me tell you what's going to get you more time in jail. Let me tell you what is going to give you a chance back out of society. And let me help you to understand that those guys who want you to pick up that gun and settle a score, come on, they don't love you.
They're not going to do your time.
They're not going to do your time. But Colette McEachin is here, and she's at the top of the game. My sister, Major Sybil El-Amin Jones, comes in there, and she brought books and cards and cake and cupcakes, wasn't it? Cupcakes. And they love her. They only saw her 2 or 3 times a day. Talk back to me. Anyway, that's another story. My whole point is it's been family. Let me say that. When I go out in the street, I am not afraid at all, because I know when I go, somebody's going to say, hey, there's Officer El-Amin. During the protest, last thing I'm going to say, car comes down the street the wrong way on Grace, packed full of kids. I pull them over, and I'm like, oh, my goodness, what's going on? The guy in the back seat had just got out of Oliver Hill. He said, hey, you the officer that brought us police and played basketball with us, and reached out and shook my hand.
We're on the protest.
And we're on the protest.
Like, hey, Sybil, how you doing?
And I said, hey,
how you doing, baby?
Somebody's talking about shop with a cop, national night out. So I shake his hand. I said, my man. I said, what y'all doing? You driving the wrong way down the street. He said, man, we're going to the studio, please. I said, I'm going to give y'all a warning. Tighten up. Tighten up. ICB, Ray Nebelit, 400 kids playing basketball. And I'm there in shorts. Listen, I could go on and on, but people are shouting out all the great things that we're doing. Right. Y'all, whoever's on Facebook watching us, please do it, because we're leaving y'all out. Really, I'm trying to think all this stuff. Elaine Miner is doing it. Sergeant Edmonds, Captain Flippo, Kim Cheatham, Paul Lewis, Clovia Lawrence. And listen, if I didn't mention you, charge it to my head, not my heart.
That's what we always say. That's what we always say. Colette, there was a question that came in to you that they wanted to know, and for Rod, thank again for all your passion, man. And don't you guys go nowhere, because I got something special at the end in my my comments here. Colette.
Yes, sir. Hello?
Is Colette?
Yep, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
All right, there you are. Okay. All right. They want to know, what is your office?
I can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
All right, so how about this? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Farrhard.
So I got a question for you. For anybody who has court coming up, what should they do? Should they retain a lawyer? Should they not retain a lawyer? How should they present themselves in court if they have a charge, if there's been a discrepancy?
What do you mean if there's been a discrepancy?
If they've been charged with something they don't believe is right.
Oh, so I'm a lawyer, so I think everybody should always have a lawyer. What I would say is, if you are arrested or if you receive a summons, if you get a summons, there's going to be a court date for you to appear. And when you appear on that date, you'll be arraigned. And if you want an attorney, you can either get a court-appointed attorney if you're indigent, or if you have enough money, you can hire your own attorney. And then once you have an attorney, the court will set a trial date or preliminary hearing date. But yes, I would always recommend that most people get an attorney. Obviously, for some traffic offenses, things that are kind of relatively minor, where you're going to end up with driving school, or if it's a lower level misdemeanor, you might not get an attorney, not want an attorney, and just do community service or make restitution to the person you harmed. But in most cases, you want an attorney because an attorney is going to help you present your case in the best light for you to the court. So you may think that, well, I'm smart. I graduated from college. I graduated from high school. I know what was I know what happened. The attorney wasn't there, but the attorney knows the rules of the court, and the attorney knows the rules of evidence, and the attorney knows probably that judge and how that judge reacts to the way evidence is presented. And so I recommend that everybody get an attorney and have an attorney to represent them.
All right, I'm back now. T-Mobile. I'm going to blame T-Mobile for that one.
Okay.
Dadgum T-Mobile. All right, here's a question, Colette, before T-Mobile pull the plug again. They want to know, what current programs and what impending or future programs do you have that's going to foster that trust in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office? What will you be doing in the community?
So I hope people have been able to attend or see the videos from our Beyond Containment series that I was doing in conjunction with the Commonwealth attorneys of both Henrico and Chesterfield, to actually talk with various members of the community about certain topics, whether it was housing or education or criminal justice, and find out what the community wants from us. So there are certain things that I can do as Commonwealth. So one of the good things in Richmond is if you are charged with a crime, unless the crime is violent in nature, or you have other pending matters in another jurisdiction, for the most part, if you are charged with any crime in Richmond that does not fall into that violent category or does not have a rebuttable presumption, you are going to be released. You will not have to go to jail. You're going to be given a personal recognizance bond and perhaps some conditions about drug screening or things like that, but you will be able to not be in jail, and therefore you will be able to go to work, and you will be able to pay your rent on time, and you will be able to go to school. So my office tries to do things that allow people to live their life as long as we are sure that they can live their life safely without harming others until they are actually in court and with their lawyer have the opportunity to present their case before a judge and have the judge decide whether or not they're guilty or innocent.
Awesome. All right, as we get ready to close out, and I certainly appreciate all our listeners and audience staying with us, and most of all, again, our guests. I want to go back to Sybil and Farrhard and ask, where do we go from here, and what would you like our audience to take away from this discussion tonight? Sybil?
What I think the audience really needs to do is be informed about their local police agencies. Like I said, our department has so much going for it as far as being the leader, really. What other agencies model themselves after as far as community police. So when we look at all the things we offer, like the Citizens Academy, which is basically if you're a citizen in the city of Richmond, you don't even have to be a citizen in the city of Richmond. If you want to know what we do, you can join our Citizens Police Academy. And all of this information can be found on our website at www.richmondgov.com. So we have the Citizens Academy, we have the Hispanic Citizens Academy, we have the LGBTQ partnership, we have the LIFE program, we have community youth and intervention services. When there are questions about the big 8 or the 8 that can't wait, when you're looking at our policies, we don't allow strangleholds or chokeholds. We already provide all of our officers with de-escalation training. We have provided our officers with how to communicate with those that might be suffering from some sort of mental health episode, so they know how to identify triggers and symptoms that they may see. We have a homeless task force unit. We have narcotics group. We have just about every program out there. Let me go back to 8 that can't wait. So just to stay on topic. So we have body worn cameras. There are about 450 officers that are in patrol, and I want to say 400 of those officers, we may have maybe 60 that don't have body worn cameras already. We have rigid audit policies with those body worn cameras. So if an officer goes on the street, they take 12 calls in that night, let's say. When they come back in, they should have 12 video recordings, right? So if they don't have 12 video recordings, let's say they have 2. Then they would have to explain, why don't you have the video recordings like you're supposed to? And they would face discipline if they don't turn on their body worn cameras. Those videos are provided to the Commonwealth attorney. If the Commonwealth attorney sees that the officer did something illegal, they can bring charges. Our internal affairs division can bring charges. We have training that talks about being able to de-escalate when you see the officer taking something personal. So when my brother said that someone called him a pig or a murderer, and I could see that that's getting him hot under the collar, then I'm responsible for saying, hey, you need to step back for a second and bring it down. Maybe I'll step up and deal with the person that's being aggressive. So we have a system of checks and balances to provide you the best officer humanly possible. We have background checks, psychological checks. I mean, all those things that people are asking for, I'm not sure they understand that we have neighborhood watch groups, faith leader programs. We are broken into sectors. Okay, that's the way we police geographically. That each area, each precinct is divided into sectors, and so the sector lieutenant has to build a rapport with community leaders, with council member persons, with businesses in the area. We do business checks. I mean, there's a list of 150 things that I could tell you that we do, and if you were to compare that list to agencies like and I hate to to contrast and compare, but I have to shout out our department. When you put those two things up side by side, you can clearly see where the problem is going to occur, because this list of things is something that these agencies don't offer. Now, I'm saying this, but I also want to say that everybody's not perfect. I mean, every officer gets upset. Every officer gets frustrated. I can guarantee you this. We're going to have an officer that makes a mistake. We are going to have an officer that gets it wrong. What you should know is we are just as concerned about that occurring than you are. So where we go from here is first educate yourself on what it is we actually do. Okay, before you start to point and say the things that we don't. And if there's something that you would like to see us do, again, that is fair. We work for the community. We don't work for us. We don't police. I mean, we're not police the police. We are here for the community. So if there are things that you want brought to the table, I think it's very clear that the programs that we've brought thus far, it's because the community has said that these are the things that we would like to see. So get involved. And again, if you want to have a conversation, I think with anybody, if you want to have a conversation with any person on the planet, the last thing you want to do is throw sticks and stones and name call. I know our agency, okay, the leadership in our agency is willing to sit down with anyone that requests it, okay? So we're not afraid to have hard conversations, but just keep in mind that hard conversations go both ways. There's not going to be name calling accusations without everyone understanding that we can all do better as a community, and not just have this expectation for police to lead the drive on social reform, when social reform is the responsibility of the community, and we are an extension of the community. And if you want to see better police officers, I tell anyone, we are hiring. So if you
I'm
are
too old.
no, you are not too old.
I'm too old.
Sorry, you're not too old. We have had police officers, and I know 51. You can't say his name. Okay. Well, so you can't. Yeah.
we just leave that.
So we have had officers, okay, join the police academy past the age of 55. Okay,
do an awesome job.
Were you looking for me to respond on that about how old I am?
No, I'm not. I'm simply saying that your age is not the reason why you can't be a police officer. You could be 20 and 22 and fit, okay, and just have a horrible disposition, and you can't get hired with us. All right. So it's not just age, okay? Age, it brings about maturity. Age brings wisdom. The things that you could actually say, hey, you don't want to do that, and I can tell you that because I am X, Y, Z. So age is not, race is not, gender is not. If you it doesn't really matter. Okay, we are interested in diversity, and if you don't see that reflected in the law enforcement agency in your locale, then join up, because we certainly do have everyone from every walk of every group that you could think of. We need more representation. And I have to say that, law enforcement historically has been dominated by white men. That's not a surprise to anyone. Is it anybody shocked by that? Colette McEachin would say attorneys, same thing. If you don't take part and you don't put yourself in the position, then you're not going to see the diversity that you want to see. I can't tell you how many times I walked in the room and I'm the only woman there, Black woman there. Does that deter me in any way, shape, or form? Do you think that's going to bother me? Not at all. Not at all. I know my value to this organization. I know my value to society. And I know that the community needs to see someone that looks like me, as well as any group of people that have their heart in the right place, that has high ethical standards, that has good decision making skills, good communication skills. And even if like my brother and I, we could stand to lose a few pounds, I promise you will be fit by the time you end the Richmond Police Training Academy. 13 miles, baby. You can do it. You can do it. This is
You just lost me. You just lost me. All right. Colette, what do you, and then I'm going to go back to Farrhard, what do you want everybody to take away from this discussion tonight?
First of all, thank you, Cruz, for always supporting getting the word out to the community. The service that you are providing is invaluable, and I just want to say thank you. I want everybody to understand that everyone with any conscience was horrified by what happened to Breonna Taylor and what happened to Ahmaud Arbery and what happened to George Floyd, and the list could go on. But the police as an entity cannot be the boogeyman in your closet. You need to face, and the police need to face and will face, the problems that have historically occurred within an individual organization. But you, to Sybil's point, you can't paint all police departments with the same brush. You can't paint all schools with the same brush. You can't paint all radio station hosts with the same brush. You can't, right? So I want everybody to take a deep breath and think about the fact that it's not an either or. It's not a my way or the highway. The only way Richmond gets better, the only way our country gets better, the only way the state of Virginia gets better is if we all are willing to talk with each other and work towards a common goal. And that goal that we all want is fairness and justice. We all want fairness and justice. We all want to be treated equally and with respect by the people who we deal with. That's what I have to say.
All right. Farrhard, what do you want people to take away from this discussion tonight?
I think it's already been said, and I don't want to get emotional and stuff, so I just want to leave it. I just want people to look at us as individuals, number one. And listen, and if you get mistreated by the police, report it. I know everybody says, well, y'all protect. No, we don't. Because guess what? I like air conditioning. I like having a house. I got a brown dog named Chloe. And I know a beautiful wife and children. And if I stand by and let somebody do some stupid stuff like what happened in Minnesota, they won't come and take me away and I'll lose it all. So please believe when I say, tell, you got to tell. And I know in some cultures, snitching is not the move. Some of my kids tell me that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Snitching on the police? I'm like, you be helping me. And they're like, nah, I won't snitch. Tell. If you see something, say something. Now I'm going to say this too. I'm going to be bold. If you see protesters setting stuff on fire,
tell that too.
Tell that. Because guess what? Richmond doesn't have a lot of money. People get mad at me when I say that. We already don't have enough cars and enough resources to do everything we need to do. So when our buses and police cars and buildings are set on fire, we have less to use to do the job we need to do. And with COVID, and I'm going to call them cowards. I'm saying it right now. You got on a mask and you only come out at night and set things on fire. Word. I said it. You can be mad. Tell that. But if you got a cop who want to put their knee on somebody's neck and choke them out, that's a coward. If you want to call you out your name, tell it. You got to tell it. Because here's the thing. Oh, I see the picture come up.
Mm-hmm.
You got to tell it, because here's the thing. In school, right? If you have a bully who's scared of the guys he's hanging around with, well, girls, the gooch doesn't do that to everybody. They only do it to the people they can get away with it with. They won't do it around my sister, because my sister will be like, what are you doing? Knock it off. And matter of fact, come here. Now, I'm going to say it in a different way, but she'll take care of it. I'll report them to her. So what I'm saying is they won't do it around me. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen in Richmond. I'm saying
if it happens in Richmond,
tell it. Okay, please. Please. But here's the thing, y'all. There are over 250,000 citizens, about 1,000 officers. You do the math. No. We need help. Anytime I made a good arrest, it's because somebody told me. It's not because I'm Superman. These clothes she got on, and she's fantastic. They're not magic. I'm not magic. I can't read minds. If somebody's saying, hey, you should check 2 doors down. The dude that shot the guy, he's over there. And I'm like, word, that. But same thing. Hey, that officer over there that patrols in Gilpin or Hillside, he shouldn't be a police officer. I'll be like, word, bet. Let me report. I said, I'll report him. Just tell me his name or tell me the car number he drives in. See something, say something. Treat people as individuals. Don't judge people by their occupation or their skin color. Lead your life in faith and not fear. And I love y'all. How about that? And it ain't nothing you can do about it.
I want to say to each and every one of you, first, Sybil, thank you for coming on tonight, being so passionate about what you do and painting the picture of Richmond, the Richmond Police Department that I've known for the last 20-something years since I've been here and in this area from Memphis. So thank you again. I'm trying not to get emotional like Ron here.
Get emotional.
We're emotional. Get emotional. It means a lot.
It's healthy.
It's healthy to say that you care.
Yep.
It matters. You want to change things.
I don't agree with the nonsense.
I don't agree with the nonsense, and I'm going to be here until it's over. It's all good.
I appreciate that because I know there's some people that expected me to rip anew, but that's not what I'm about. I'm about education, insight, information, and healing a community that I have my freaking house in. I
Mhm.
live here in Richmond. I pay taxes here in Richmond.
Yep.
So I'll be damned if I'm not going to sit quiet and watch people from outside come and tear up my damn city. And I'm going to be.
Nope.
Yep.
Yep.
There it is.
That is
Let it go.
exactly. That is exactly
Let it go.
how. That is exactly how we feel.
My man.
These our officers, okay, our community has done so much to get ahead, okay. So when someone tries to take that from you, we should take that personally. I come to work and I suit up every day, because I am choosing to make it better than it was for my parents, better than it was for their parents, better than it was for their parents. That's why we're here. So if you have any questions about the passion or the feelings or how we feel, okay, as law enforcement agencies, this is what Richmond Police looks like. We look like you.
And listen, we're doing it for our kids, right? And here's the thing, and if I didn't like Richmond, I wouldn't be on this call. I love Richmond because Richmond accepted me. The culture we live in, they don't like the police, right? I didn't like the police. I already told y'all. I wanted to be the change that I wanted to see in the world. And now that my kids, and not my biological kids, but my city kids and adults who give me a shout on Instagram, Facebook, on the news, out in the street, speak to me in front of other people, I'm like, hey, that's love. Even though they didn't say, hey, I love you, officer, no, them speaking to me is love, and I know it. And I'm like, hey, yo, so when people come here from out of town to mess it up, to try to jump on some bandwagon that you really ain't about, nah,
They're not about that.
They ain't about that life, and that makes me mad, right?
Furious.
And then you ain't got nothing invested in the city, and you gonna go on and go destroy something else? Nah, nope, I ain't going for it. So that's why I'm here, and I'm probably pretty aggressive right now. I'm not gonna apologize. I apologized earlier.
All right, somebody said I feel like a TV announcement needs to be done. I'm sorry, I don't have a commercial to throw in here right now.
Go break.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Colette.
And listen, we've been doing this for 18, 19 plus days. We're tired. One time. Oh yeah, and we're tired.
yeah.
That's it.
Go Dallas.
Colette, I want to thank you as well because since we have connected, you have been a champion, you have been a confidant, and you have, in every shape, form, and fashion, been sterling. And I appreciate the camaraderie. I appreciate your professionalism, and I look forward to having you as the Commonwealth's attorney until you decide you don't want to do it anymore.
Better not.
Amen.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, I am going to do something here, and I want you guys to just hang with me as I close out. And I promise you, I'm not going to try not to get emotional anymore here. But again, I am adamant and passionate about what I do. And if anybody got a problem with me, you get your own damn show. And you can talk about the police or whatever and negative stuff that you want to. But this is my damn show. I pay the bills, and I wanted to show that I don't care. Maybe, yeah, there's no perfect police department, but the police department that I know is what I see right here.
Girl.
Not all officers are bad players. Those that carry out their duties to protect and serve should not be grouped or punished for the bad behavior of some officers. These men and women who have served, protect, and serve with integrity, exceptional professionalism, and honor. They put their lives on the line day in and day out. Without these dedicated first responders, there will be anarchy and chaos. The reality is, yes, the racism needs to be rooted out of our police departments across the country and around the world. The dismantling of the blue wall of silence has to come down when it comes to turning a blind eye to police misconduct and brutality. But we have as a community, along with the comprehensive and complete partnership with those who protect and serve, we have a responsibility not only to protect and serve them, but protect and serve our community as well. What you see on this screen is the police department that I know here in Richmond, Virginia. It is the police department that I am advocating for, and it's the police department that I, again, support. If you want to make a change, put pressure on your local and national elected officials to change the laws or get the vote them out of office. There has to be a sweeping reform of our government, and it happens at the polls and beyond. So quit burning up our damn city, protest peacefully, and you don't understand the economic things that you're doing in the city. You don't understand the morale that that you're causing within our police department. Damn it, we're a lot better than this, and I know we're a lot better than this. So I'm asking you, I'm nobody, and I don't give a damn if you don't know my name anymore. But just understand, I am passionate about this city being back to Richmond, the Richmond that I came here and enjoy and moved to some time ago. So
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
I'm sorry we went so long. I apologize, but I wanted to give you all enough time and for us to talk about the issues here. And so again, I will leave this up here that somebody just said. We have a blessed Richmond Police Department. And so people appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much for being here with me tonight. And this is not the last time that you all will be here. You have an open invitation to come back, and we're going to do this again.
We look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, you all have a great night. Be safe, and Godspeed to you all.
Thank you.
No, you too.
Good night, Colette.
See you later.
I think T-Mobile took off. Good night, everybody.
All right, good night.
All right, everybody. Thank you again for being with us. Thank you for your patience tonight. Thank you for your comments and your questions and everything else. Really appreciate you all. And we ask that you would support us. Go to our website, cruisingradio.com. We need your support. We appreciate your support. Again, we do this because we love what we do, and we want to continue to be that force that brings you informative information, relevant information, and things that you can use. So thank you very much. Have a great night. And please let us know how you enjoy this program, how you enjoy what we do, and get ready for some nice, smooth jazz right now on Cruising Radio 102.8, your internet radio station for smooth jazz, R&B, gospel, and more. And you can go to, again, cruisingradio.com. Have a fantastic night. Love you guys. You all be blessed.